Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we all are here to celebrate Independence Day, which is coming very soon. On the 75th Independence Day, along with our patriotic emotions, we are Team Global Science. We are celebrating it with role of scientist in independence. Today, we are very happy that we have such a great personality with us, Professor Hema Vasavada. She is MA from Gujarat University, Ahmedabad. She is MA from University of Wisconsin, USA. She is mathematician, worked as a lecturer in LD Arts College and MG Science Institute, Ahmedabad. She is a teacher of maths in Wisconsin Heights High School, USA. She is a writer of various books which is based on calculus, geometry and mathematics. She has also written some books on analytical geometry. She is a visiting faculty at Vikram Sarabhai Community Science Center, Ahmedabad, and she was working in a mathematics lab in 2011. Associated with organizing exhibition of mathematical models, conducting workshops of making models, and on non-formal mathematics at different schools. She is MPhil in dissertation, and the book Prayoginic Ganit are also on a topic. She is a life member of Gujarat Ganit Mandal and president of Gujarat Ganit Mandal for the year 2007. Presently, she is preparing videos on a demonstrating of mathematical models on YouTube. The special thing about today's lecture is Professor Hema is delivering talk on role of Prahalad Chunni Vaidy, his work, his time in the independence movement and his scientific background. A very important thing we should note that Hema is a student of Professor Vaidy. So I would like to request our core team member Asmita Savanji to please welcome our guest.
Good afternoon, all. I would like to welcome our today's speaker, Hema Vasavada. On behalf of Team Global Science, I would request her to please shower us with golden words of knowledge. Everyone, let's begin this science journey. Hema ji, please start.
Okay, thank you very much. At the very outset, I would first like to thank the director, Shri Praveen Shukla, and the members of the organizing committee of the Global Science Organization for giving me this opportunity to talk about Professor P.C. Vaidy. I think it was a very well-conceived program to have somebody talk about scientists and Gandhians on this eve of independence, because otherwise our new generation will not know anything about the scientists except their names perhaps and a little bit of their work. So I'm so happy that I will be a part of this program. Secondly, this program means much more to me than just this. I have been a student of Professor P.C. Vaidy for 6 years. 4 years of college. At that time, we had first year, inter, junior, and senior. And then 2 years of post-graduation. It so happened that when I joined the college, just a couple of months after that, Professor Vaidy joined as a professor in that college. And in my final year, Just before it was about to finish, he was transferred to another college as a principal. We were all very sorry. He had finished the course, but we were sorry to have him go. But that's the way it was. But lo and behold, when I went over to the postgraduate department, which was just started that year for my postgraduate studies, there he was as a professor and head of the new department. So I got 2 more years of study with him. Therefore, I'm thinking of the past when I was in the science college and he left. We had a farewell function organized in honor of him. I, being the only lady student, was asked to say something. I did not because I thought I would become emotional. But now, after years after he has left us forever, I take this opportunity to talk about him to the youngsters today as to what he was as a scientist, mathematician, and a Gandhian. So, thank you very much once again for giving me this opportunity to pay a respectful, humble tribute to my teacher. Well, जिस व्यक्ति के बारे में आज हम कुछ कहने जा रहे हैं, वो बहुत बड़ी व्यक्ति थी. वो गणित का ज्ञान तो उनका था ही, काफी ज्ञान था उनका. शिक्षक की हैसियत से वो अति लोकप्रिय थे. संशोधनकार की हैसियत से उनको अंतर्राष्ट्रीय ख्याति मिली थी, इंटरनेशनल रेपुटेशन एंड रिकॉग्निशन. एंड he was an able administrator and also दिल से वो चुस्त गांधीवादी थे. He is too big a personality to talk about and I am too small a person to talk about him, but I will try. I would like to share my screen. Can you please see my PowerPoint? Hello? Hello? I'm sharing my screen now and putting the PowerPoint. Can you see it, please? Am I audible?
Ma'am, you are audible, but kind request to please share your computer screen so we can see what you are presenting. Please share your screen.
I've already shared. Just a minute.
We are waiting. Please take your time.
Do you see my screen now? Hello?
Yes, we can see your screen now.
And do you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. So now I go ahead now. So this is, of course, the title, but this is the picture of Dr. P.C. Vaidy, and it is written in Gujarati, Prachu Vaidy. I have not removed it, even though there may not be any Gujarati listeners here, because whenever he had to sign other than English, he would write it as Prachu Vaidy, Prahalad Chunni Vaidy. So this was Prahalad Chunni Vaidy as we saw him. And now the question is, just a minute. While trying to say about him, I'm reminded of a saying that some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. Professor Vaidy was one. For him, the achievement was not thrust upon him. he got it, he achieved it. He was a big name, a prominent mathematician of the 20th century in India. His research went far beyond the boundaries of Gujarat. He got international recognition, and his work was known as Vaidy metric. So far as we are concerned locally, he dominated the scene of Gujarat mathematics arena in Gujarat for 6 decades. He taught, he did research, he worked as an educator and overall the system of education in Gujarat, and also started an association called Gujarat Ganit Mandal and a magazine called Suganitam, both in Gujarat. Now, in order to know something about the person, what he became and how he became that, it would be better that we know something about his birth and family and also the environment around him. So his family background and the atmosphere around him. He was born in 1918 in Shahpur, a small town near Junagadh in the western part of India. His father was a postmaster and had a transferable job. His aged father, 9-year-old brother Madhubai, 2-year-old sister, and Dr. Vaidy, they were all living together. Of course, the mother. They were all staying together and living very happily, although they had very modest means. They lived very respectfully and with dignity in the society. But fate would not have them happy. Prahalad lost his mother when he was only 4 years old. Now, it was not simply a loss of mother for the children, it was a loss of the lady of the house for the father Chunilal. He had to now take care of the 3 children and the aged father, and ultimately he decided that he will go over to Bhavnagar, where his sister lives, so that she can take care of the children in his absence. So they decided to go to Bhavnagar after the mother's loss, and Bhavnagar was a very good decision because Bhavnagar was a city of culture, a center of education, and it was a princely kingdom ruled by a prince who was very enlightened. So in all these ways, it was a good place. There was an extra benefit also, and that was that there was one Mr. Swami Rao in Bhavnagar who had a gym. जिम इज व्यायामशाला, जहाँ कसरत करवाते हैं वही. तो वो जो स्वामी राव थे, he was not really Swami Rao. He was Prithvi Singh, an activist, and the British government had imprisoned him for his unlawful activities. He escaped prison and came over to Bhavnagar and sort of lived in disguise in the name of Swami Rao and started this gym. Now, the older brother Madhubhai was a regular visitor to this gym. The younger brother Prahalad, that is Professor Vaidy, he also accompanied him and got fond of the gym. The advantage was that they both had, during their stay in Bhavnagar, Professor Vaidy was fairly tall then and well built because of the gym exercises. And also, the 2 brothers were intelligent and they soon became the favorites of Swami Rao. But when things seemed to be settled all the way, there was another catastrophe in the family, and that was the loss of the father when Prahalad or P.C. Vaidy was only 13 years old. In the first case, when it was the mother's loss, the father Chunilal was affected in 2 ways because besides the loss, he had to take care of the family. Now the older brother, who was still studying in his second year or final year of masters, he was doing masters in mathematics. It was his responsibility now to take care of the children or the siblings and the aged father. The sister was married by then, but this was a big responsibility and he was still studying, very young. But together with the support of close friends and relatives and his own courage, Madhubai decided that I will complete my studies and then only I will call everyone wherever I am. Madhubai completed his studies and soon he got a job. The job was in a high school as a teacher in Mumbai. He took some time to settle down and then he called his family there, which meant his wife, PC Vaidya, and father. So now that the brother had got a job, they all said bye bye to Bhavnagar and hello to Mumbai. So they were all at Mumbai. At that time, PC Vaidya was in his final year of high school. He got enrolled there in a high school in Mumbai, completed his final year, and with flying colors. And now there was the next question, what next? Now, as you can see, he studied all this, but after he finished his matriculation, the question was going to college, and that means money. Whether to go to college or not, well, the brother was called at the time of his last breath. The father had called him and said, Bachu ne BA karjo. Bachu was the pet name of PC Vaidya at home. He let Bachu study up to BA. That is what he told the older brother, because he knew that it would be his responsibility then. So the older brother took it as a responsibility. PC Vaidya also took it as his own personal responsibility that I must study and I must not be a burden to my older brother. So when he decided to go to college, he started coaching students. He also took help from charitable institutions and donors for fees and books. Up to Inter Science, he studied in North Mumbai, and then he went over to the Royal Institute of Science, now known as Institute of Science, and he got ultimately his BSc in 1940 from the Bombay University, not simply in first class, but first rank. His father, wherever he was, must have been so happy that his Bachu did not simply get his BA, he got his master's with a first rank in the university. Of course, there was much to follow yet. We saw all this so that we can realize why he is what he is, or what he was what he was. The loss of mother at the tender age of 4 can be very devastating to a young child and a young mind. The child can become depressed, diffident, and may not be able to concentrate on studies. But not so with Prahalad. Prahalad decided that he will study because his mother would have liked it, and also because the mother was not there. He started doing so many things for himself by himself. He also started helping in the household chores and thus became self-reliant. The other thing that he had come across was the loss of father. And this event made him a family man. He started realizing that it is not simply the duty of his older brother, it is his own duty also to give a helping hand in the whole affair. Also, he did not ask for any other things because he had self-respect. He started coaching and earning money. Also, we talked about Swami Rao's gym. Now, Swami Rao's gym did give them both a very nice physical personality. But as we saw, they were both the favorites of Swami Rao, and Swami Rao was, after all, a freedom fighter. He had the spirit of nationalism. He passed it on to the two brothers. And P.C. Vaidya, even at that age, started wearing khadi, and it was with understanding and conviction because he never gave it up all his life. And then there was something outside the family that also had its influence. He was 29 when we got the Indian independence. So it was the prime of his youth, a very impressionable age when the Indian freedom movement was going on. He must have seen the Quit India call. He must have also known about Gandhiji's fasts, and he must have read about the national leaders being imprisoned. All this had a very deep impression on him. His patriotism was very deep, and he also imbibed the Gandhian philosophy. It was not simply superficial, it was there deep down in his nature now. With all this, as a person, he had a Gandhian outlook, as we just saw, and because of this Gandhian outlook, it had its effect in his life. He was very simple in living, and one of the examples of his simplicity is, of course, as we talked about, the khadi, excuse me, the khadi outfit, pajama, kurta, jacket, and very often a cap. This had become a kind of identity of P.C. Vaidya. Another instance of his simplicity was that he always rode a bicycle, and also to the university and wherever he went. Here is a caricature of a fond admirer who prepared it, and you can see that there is something here, something shining where you normally have a lamp, cycle lamp. It is the radiating star because Vaidya Sahib had worked on he had his research on the radiant star. So coming back to his daily life, his approach in daily life was also Gandhian, and it showed in various ways a very simple life, Gandhian way of thinking, and so on. And now that he had got his master's, he had to do something remunerative. So he joined the academics. It was very natural that with a master's degree of first class from Bombay University would go over to college teaching, and it would be very easy to get such a job even when the jobs were college jobs were scarce at that time because there were few colleges. But now he decided to go in for teaching. He got a teaching job at the Dharmendra Siji College in Rajkot. Now, this was in 1940. His results were not yet out, and he got his appointment letter. Naturally, he joined immediately. He worked there for almost a year when some untoward incident which he did not like happened. It was supposed to be for fun, but it turned out that way. It so happened that this college was run by the princely state of Rajkot. And the Prince of Rajkot invited all the college teachers to his palace on the Holi day. Now, Holi is the festival of colors. The teachers went there, but as soon as they entered the palace, there were servants of the prince ready with bucketfuls of colored water, and they poured it on them. Not only that, they colored their faces, and there in the balcony at the top was the prince enjoying the sight and plight of the teachers. This was very humiliating for all teachers. But for PCV, his self-respect came to his rescue. He was really hurt, he decided that he will never come back to this college in the next academic year. And so he quit the college. In the next June 1941, again he was looking for a job. And this is the incident I talked about. And now the friend in Bhavnagar, Swami Rao, he unexpectedly came to his rescue. That is because this Swami Rao was afraid that he will be caught by the government. He was in disguise. So he went underground. And then, with the advice of Mahatma Gandhi, Gandhiji advised him to surrender to the government, which he did. And he was imprisoned for a couple of years. And on his release, he started a full-fledged gym. Now it was all official, no hiding, nothing doing. He was looking for somebody to be in charge of this gym. Now, this person who is in charge should be well versed with whatever is to be done in the gym. And Swami Rao had now become a total Gandhian, including his non-violence ideas. He wanted somebody who would believe in the Gandhian principle and philosophy also, and who could be a better choice than P.C. Vaidya. So, P.C. Vaidya was there in Swami Rao's gym. Unfortunately, due to political upheaval, it had to be wound up, and once again, he was looking for a job. At such a time, people with this degree, as we just mentioned, they would look for other teaching jobs. But no, Professor Vaidya was a man of different metal. He liked to make different decisions, and here came the time to make a tough decision to go into mathematical research. Now, it was tough in two ways. It was easy to get a college teaching job. It would also pay him. On the other hand, mathematical research is a thorny job, a difficult thing to do, and he had no fellowship or scholarship. But he decided to do this because while he was studying in BSc, Professor V. Narlikar had come there and given a talk on relativity. At that time, Professor Vaidya was so impressed by this talk that now, when the time came, he decided that he will go in for research with Principal V. Narlikar and work with him on relativity. So, he wrote to Professor V. Narlikar that I would like to work with you on relativity. Professor Narlikar agreed, and they were there over to Banaras with Professor V. Narlikar. I said they were there. They means not simply P.C. Vaidya, but his wife and a 6-month-old daughter also. Now, they both started working on this. The problem that they decided to work on was the problem of the radiating star, which was represented in the cycle caricature as we saw before. They decided to work on the problem of the radiating star. And the problem was something like this, that when you want to find the gravitational force of anything, you consider its mass. It plays an important role. And then, of course, according to the laws of gravity and all that, things can be worked out. But they were to work on a radiating star which would radiate light. Now, light has energy. And Einstein gave the equation E equal to mc square. Energy also has some mass. That means that if you want to work about or think about the gravitational force of the radiating star, you have to consider the energy of the radiating star or that mass also. They worked on it for quite a while with no success. Meanwhile, politically around him, there was, as we just saw, a lot of upheaval. Gandhiji decided to go on fast, 21 days fast. And that was to protest against the atrocities of the British government. Now, in the first place, he was so much popular with the masses that everyone worried. And secondly, his physique was so delicate that 21 days of fast would be too much for him. That is what all thought. So everybody was worried. So was P.C. Vaidya. He would go and stand under a tree waiting for the afternoon newspaper to find out about the news on Gandhiji's health. Now, while waiting for the newspaper, he would be pacing under the tree, walking and pacing around, and he would be waiting for the newspaper, but he would be thinking of the radiating star. One day, suddenly, there was a spark. He got an idea. And once the idea was there, the solution was a matter of details to put things in place. But it is easily said than done. Putting in place the things and determining the solution was a huge job. It took quite some time, but well, now P.C. Vaidya was well on way. He had got the direction. This is Professor Narlikar, with whom P.C. Vaidya was working. And this is P.C. Vaidya. Of course, this P.C. Vaidya, the picture is a very recent one. He was very young at that time. But this is the professor and the student. Now, he was there. Professor Narlikar was a professor of mathematics in Banaras University, and we know him as the father of Dr. Jayant Narlikar, who is a well-known astrophysicist. They both started working on this. It took some time, but after 9 months, with no extra money at hand and the bank savings dwindling down, Professor Vaidya then had to decide to go back to hometown and start teaching so as to earn money and then also do research. At this time, he had a lot of guidance from V.V. Narlikar. He had got an idea, a direction, and now he was confident that he will be able to work himself. And when he left Banaras, he used to jokingly say sometimes that people go to Banaras, Kashi, to collect punya and improve their next birth or the next life. I went to Kashi, I collected some material, but that material was for improving my own life, and it improved my life like anything. It gave me a direction, a goal, and I achieved it. So once he decided that he wanted to start teaching, he looked for it and he got a teaching position at the MTB College, Surat, in 1943. Naturally, he was afraid what this college would be like with the previous experience. But this was a good experience. The principal here, Professor N.M. Shah, was a great mathematician and an able administrator. Also, he was very nice to Professor Vaidya also. So now, Professor Vaidya, who already had some lessons of teaching and research in his bag, he added now some more lessons of administration from observing this good administrator, and his bag was all rich and full with lessons and experiences. But later on, he got an appointment at the Vittalbhai Patel Science College, Vallabh Vidyanagar. He decided to go there. It was again a decision that was not so easy because it was in sharp contrast to his previous college. The Surat College was 25 years old. The Vidyanagar College was only 1 year old. The Surat was a big city. Vidyanagar was a small township founded specially by Bhailalbhai Patel and Bhikhabhai Patel to give facilities of higher education to the surrounding rural areas. Now, When P.C. Vaidy came to VP Science College in Vidyanagar, it was all construction all around. There were college buildings, but there were so many classrooms without roofs. There were dusty, unfinished roads. There was construction and creation all around in the atmosphere. This, together with the quiet peace as against the hustle and bustle of a city, appealed to Professor P.C. Vaidy. He thought that this is the right atmosphere for research. And he was right. It was at Vidyanagar that he published his first paper. It was also at Vidyanagar that he did his best research. Then he applied at the government colleges, and in 1955 he joined the Gujarat College in Ahmedabad. He joined the Gujarat College in Ahmedabad as a class 1 officer and a professor in mathematics, professor and head of the Department of Mathematics. This is the college where he taught me. I also joined there in 1955 and he was there. Now, a little glimpse of the colleges that he had been to. This is the MTB College, Surat. This is the VP Science College, Vidyanagar. Of course, this is a recent picture, a very recent building, but the building that in which Vaidy Sahib taught was very different. And this is the Gujarat College, my college, and also now Professor Vaidy's college. Now, after talking about his teaching at several colleges, as a student of Vaidy Sahib, I would like to show how he was a very popular teacher. He was really a very popular teacher to the extent that when I got my master's and started teaching in a college, I met somebody at one of the conferences and he asked me, well, how do you find teaching? In those days, college discipline was a problem. So before I could say even okay, that person immediately said, oh, I shouldn't have asked you that. Vaidy Sahib student can never have a problem. Well, whether that is true of Vaidy Sahib student or not, but that reflects on what people think of Vaidy Sahib as a teacher. Vaidy Sahib was popularly known as Vaidy Sahib, so I may use the word Vaidy Sahib for him sometimes. Also, he had some assets which made him popular. He had a thorough knowledge of his subject, and that is very important. We may not realize, but students are smart enough to understand and see how much knowledge the teacher has. And of course, he passed it in flying colors. Again, he had a very commanding voice and personality. I'll just give you one example. While in the college, there was some college annual program going on. The hall was full of students, and suddenly one student made some comment. Now, Vaidy Sahib turned towards that corner, looked there and shouted, "Who's that?" And there was pin drop silence. That was his voice, his personality. Also, going along with the traits of personality, he had a great sense of humor. And of course, ready-wittedness, both. When he came to our class, the first time in my class, before he entered, somebody had written on the blackboard, "Dr. Sahib, Vaidy Sahib, please remove our rogue." Rogue, this was written in Gujarati. In Gujarati, rogue means disease. So, I'll just explain this, that doctor is an allopathic doctor, Vaidy is an Ayurvedic doctor, and what was conveyed here in this sentence was that you are doctors in both the ways and we would like you to remove the disease of this class. The word for disease in Gujarati was rogue. Vaidy Sahib entered the class, looked at the board, and then he read aloud the sentence. He said, "Sure, I will." He underlined with chalk the Gujarati word rogue, and on the top of it he wrote in English ROGUE. ROGU, rogue, means shut, शैतानियत करने वाला, बदमाशी करने वाला. So that is what he said, and everybody, in the first place, they were stunned, and then they burst into laughter. Also, he was a doctor, but he had got his PhD. He had never studied anywhere outside of India, and so he used to call himself Deshi doctor or country doctor. But we know that this Deshi doctor was invited by the Washington State University in the United States as a visiting professor to teach for 1 year. That was the Deshi doctor. Now, he also took parts in sports and youth activities of the college, actively involved in them. And here is a picture of Professor Vaidy congratulating the champion of the school sports, college sports. Then, of course, after Gujarat College, we know, as I told you in the very beginning, he was the professor and head of the PG department of mathematics at GU. This is a picture of the mathematics department here, and this is Professor Vaidy in his khadi outfit. So now, he was professor and head mathematics department of the Gujarat University, and he took a very simple decision, simple looking but difficult to follow perhaps, that so far during college teaching he had taken part in so many extracurricular activities. Now he decided that he will concentrate on mathematics and mathematical activities. That meant not simply teaching and research, but also activities beyond the classroom. And he went outside the classroom in many ways, and that is what we will talk about now. So this is the decision that he took, that now it will be a total commitment to mathematics and math education. And he started this. That means, I just told all this. The first thing he decided to do was to change the syllabus at all levels, because he thought that we were not up to date. The second thing he decided to do was founding of a mathematical association of Gujarat Ganit Mandal. And the third thing that he did was he started a Gujarati bi-monthly magazine, Suganitam. We just mentioned the names, but these are all very tough jobs. Talking about the change of syllabus, he saw that the syllabus was stagnant for decades and it needed revision in order to be up to date with the entire world. At the moment when Russia was putting Sputnik into space, here were our PG students who did not know what a set was. So he decided to change the entire syllabus to bring in the new modern mathematics and make the syllabus up to date. For that, he had a plan. And the plan was first PG, then UG, and then schools. So he started with the postgraduate, then the undergraduate, and then the schools. But making plans and deciding to do is not enough. There were problems. In every section, there were some problems. For the PG, the problem was training the teachers. Not all teachers knew the new course or syllabus that was going to be introduced. In UG also, there was the same problem. But PG, there were very few teachers to be trained. UG, there were some more, but still it was not too big, easy to handle. In both the cases, Professor Vaidy, together with his team who could help him in this new syllabus, they organized workshops, summer schools, and in-service programs. But in the case of UG, there was one more problem, and that was a big problem. The medium of instruction was Gujarati, and there were no textbooks with the new syllabus in Gujarati. They had to be written. Okay, we can say you write this, you write that, you write that. It's not that. You have to write textbooks. It's not simply omitting something and adding something. So they had to be written totally differently. And the bigger problem was terminology. There was no mathematics of this sort in Gujarati. So there were no words. The terminology had to be coined, framed, and standardized according to the English terms. So that was a big job. That also, and in schools, the problem here, we saw what they did and how they handled it. Now in schools, the training of the was of large number. It was enormous, huge number of teachers in school. So that was a difficult job, and they had to go from place to place to train the teachers. And the bigger problem was the attitude of teachers and parents. The parents thought that if the new syllabus comes into force, we will not be able to help our students, our children at home. The teachers would be trained in the new syllabus, all right, but they were used to teaching the same thing over and over and over again. Now they would have to learn the new concepts and also understand the old concepts with the new approach or in the new perspective. And for this, PC Vaidy prepared a team of teachers. They went from town to town, school to school, and had public lectures with teachers and parents and tried to explain to them the necessity of such a syllabus, how this syllabus is not going to be difficult and they should not be afraid of it. Gradually, this attitude of the teachers and parents was overcome, their fear was gone, and the sailing was relatively smooth. So, the solution also I have talked about with the problem, so I will not. We have talked about all this. And after changing this syllabus, the next thing was, as we mentioned earlier, his two major contributions. The founding of a mathematical association, Gujarat Ganit Mandal, and bi-monthly Suganiya. This Gujarat Ganit Mandal was an association founded by, of course, Professor Vaidy. Who could be a member of this association? Well, anyone who is interested in mathematics. The mathematics could be of a school level, higher level, or even recreational. Anyone interested in mathematics could become a member, and consequently, there were officers from the bank and retired engineers who were also its members. The Mandal held annual conferences in various parts of the state, including rural towns also. The idea was that the people in those small places, the teachers will come, they will see the Mandal and its conference in working, and maybe when the next time when it is farther away, they will come even there. The advantage is this annual conferences were held for 3 days, and it was kind of 3-day mathematical festival. People could hear popular and technical talks in mathematics. They could discuss mathematics. They could participate in discussions. They could see mathematical exhibitions. And above all, they could meet people in mathematics who are well known in mathematics. Now, this magazine Suganitam, it had started with the idea of popularization, just like the association Gujarat Ganit Mandal. The first condition was there will be nothing about examination and syllabus in this. It will be just mathematics, about mathematics, and popularization of mathematics, so that the common man will also be able to read and understand this. In order to do this, he built up the unknowingly, there was a side benefit. There was a team built up of team of writers because we needed articles in the magazine. Now, both these were very great contributions of Professor Vaidy. Both of them have lasted for a very long time, even after his death. And they have been there for 55 years. Both of them, there was a joint advantage which I missed, that both these, the association conferences and the magazine, they provided an opportunity to meet and know personalities like Professor Rao and Father Wallace. Professor Rao was known as the father of the concept of mathematical laboratory. He was known for his problem solving, and he was popular for popular lectures in mathematics. Father Wallace came to Gujarat at the age of 24 from Spain as a professor of mathematics in St. Xavier's College, Ahmedabad. But his proficiency in Gujarati, which he studied after coming here, was so great that he was very helpful in framing and coining the Gujarati terminology while writing the textbooks. Now, before going over to further, this is Professor Rao I just talked about. This is P.C. Vaidy and this is Professor Rao, both mathematical icons sitting together. This is Father Wallace. This is Dr. Homi Bhabha, whom we shall talk about later, from Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, and Dr. Vikram Sarabhai of Physical Research Laboratory, about whom also we shall mention a little later. Now, before we stop talking about his teaching, I would like to have you look at some pictures of Professor Vaidy Sahib in action. This is Professor Vaidy at 88, attending a conference in Vadodara. This is Dr. A.M. Vaidy, also professor and head of the Gujarat University Mathematics Department and a great mathematician by himself. Now he passed away very recently, and this is, of course, myself. And these are some pictures of Professor Vaidy in action at schools and conferences. And now came the time for us to talk about his teaching and about him also. He gave up his teaching at this juncture. Once again, he had very difficult decisions to make. Once again, he saw what happened was that he was invited by the government to take up the chairmanship of the Gujarat Public Service Commission, GPSC. Now, to accept it or not to accept it was a big dilemma for Professor Vaidy. If he accepts it, he would have to say bye-bye to teaching. Something that was so dear to him, he had been doing all this for 31 years, and it will all be stopped. If he doesn't accept it, his heart would hurt him, because we always say that the government at a very high responsible positions, it bypasses merit and favoritism prevails. Now that he has been offered a responsible post, it becomes his duty to the society to accept it. And so that's what he did. He got a chairmanship of GPSC in 1971, and he was there for 6 years, 2 periods, 2 terms of chairmanship. When he joined there, it was a government office. The people there were all government servants, used to their ways. When he joined, people were very skeptical about what a university professor can do in such a place. But let's see what he did. He was very strict, very human also. One incident is tells very much about him. There were interviews fixed at 11 o'clock for candidates. The candidates were all there. All the interview team members were there. Only one person was not there, and that was the government appointee or the government officer. Professor Vaidy said that, all right, let's start, it's time. And the clerk said that, well, The officer hasn't come yet. Up to half an hour we can wait. It's not late. And he was so annoyed. Professor Vaidy said, no, no waiting for a single minute, whoever it is. Get started. And they got started. Now, without fearing what this officer will do to him for not waiting for him. But at the end of 6 terms, when he left, the whole staff bade him a tearful farewell to this able administrator and strict disciplinarian. Later on, immediately, he was appointed the member of the UPSC, which he quit halfway because he was offered the vice chancellorship of Gujarat University in Ahmedabad. Of course, this vice chancellorship also, he did not complete his term and resigned halfway because he had differences of opinion on matters of principle. Now he was totally retired from teaching and from administration, having proved himself a popular teacher and an able administrator, and of course, a researcher, good researcher. Now, he would have gone back to his research, but I'll take this picture later. Now he was free to do whatever he liked. He was invited to Washington State University once in 64-65 as visiting professor. We talked about it. While he was there was a symposium held in Austin on his field of interest. Professor Vaidy decided to go there. He attended the symposium. On the third day, he had a very pleasant surprise. Here was a speaker on the stage writing some equation on the blackboard and its solutions. They were precisely the equations and solutions which Professor P.C. Vaidy had given in his 51-52. Now, they were used. He also mentioned and acknowledged that these are P.C. Vaidy's solutions which I am using. The solutions and the work that he had done, although they were not very popular at that time, became very relevant in 60s once the discoveries of quasars, pulsars and black holes were made. And once the Dr. Vaidy's name was acknowledged in public, he got international recognition. He started getting invitations to attend and to participate in international conference. And this is the picture of one of them. It is the International Conference on General Relativity and Gravitation in London. This is Dr. P.C. Vaidy. Now, going back to his research work, we have not said much about it. We just mentioned a bit, but his research work was, which he started under the shade of a tree with the guidance of Professor Narlikar, went a long way, and this was the result, which we just saw. It ended in his international recognition. It was the theory of radiating stars. And now, coming back to the National Front, he was in close contact with Homi Bhabha of Tata Institute, we saw his picture, and Dr. Vikram Sarabhai of PRL. He was, now I will not venture to remember, I will just read out with whom he was closely associated. The Ayuka in Pune, Vikram Sarabhai Community Science Center, Ahmedabad, Physical Research Laboratory, Ahmedabad, Vishwa Coast Trust, Ahmedabad. He was also a secretary and then a president of the Indian Mathematical Society, fellow of the Indian Science Academy and Indian Academy of Sciences, founder fellow of Gujarat Science Academy, founder member of Indian Association of General Relativity and Gravity, and a host of other institutions, which you can see here, the list I will not venture to read out. The Ahmedabad municipality honored him by naming a road as Prahalad Chunni Vaidy Mark. He had a few books to his credit. One book entitled Chalk and Duster narrates his experiences as a mathematics teacher. This is in Gujarati. All of them are in Gujarati. Dr. A.M. Vaidya wrote his biography entitled Our Precious Heritage. And then he was also, there was a special issue of Suganitam to felicitate him on his 60th birthday. While his daughter was in States, he used to write letters to her regularly discussing the current events. These letters show his versatility of interest and his depth in these topics. They were later published in a very prestigious Gujarati magazine in the serial form and later on published as a book in Pastina Pana. All said and done, Professor Vaidya was a teacher par excellence, a researcher of international repute, able administrator, eloquent orator, effective writer, a builder of organizations, a scientist, a mathematician, and above all, a fine human Gandhian human being. It is very rare, very rare to find a person with these qualities in a person. And I consider myself very fortunate to have such a person as Professor Vaidya as my teacher and mentor. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vasavada madam.
Well, you're welcome.
आपने आज हमें जो बातें बताई है वो इतनी ज्यादा अच्छी थी, मतलब मैं कहना चाहूंगी बीइंग साइंस स्टूडेंट कि आप बस एक गणितीय विदुषी नहीं है, बट आफ्टर पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस वुमन एम्पावरमेंट का एक बहुत अच्छा सिंबल आज हमें देखने को मिला। मुझे इतनी खुशी हुई कि हम जैसी लड़कियां जो साइंस के इसमें कुछ करना चाहती है, हमारे लिए आप एक बहुत अच्छी सिंबल है। तो टीम ग्लोबल साइम के तरफ से तो मैं आपका बहुत ज्यादा धन्यवाद करूंगी, लेकिन ये हमारी सबकी रिक्वेस्ट है कि आगे भी एक मार्गदर्शक के रूप में आपका योगदान हमें बहुत जरूरी है। हमारे साथ रहिए, आपके आशीर्वाद हमें चाहिए, आपका इतने सालों का एक्सपीरियंस, नॉलेज, हमें उसके ब्लेसिंग्स जरूर चाहिए। ये मैं आपसे एक बार और कहना चाहूंगी। और आज का ये आपने डॉक्टर वैद्य सर का जो सब डिटेल इंफॉर्मेशन दिया वो बहुत ही अच्छा था। और हमारे भारतीय संस्कृति में अपने गुरु के लिए ऐसा प्रेजेंटेशन करना पड़े, बहुत ही सौभाग्य की बात है। तो वो आज आपको मिली और आपके मुंह से आपके गुरुजी का सब इतना महत्वपूर्ण काम सुनने को हमें मिला। सब ऑडियंस की तरफ से मैं और एक बार आपको धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगी। थैंक यू सो मच।
Excuse me, but सब ऑडियंस को और आपको I would like to apologize for taking some more time. But I was talking about
absolutely
my
not.
Well, thank you.
Because whenever anyone is getting blessing, we should not count time. ये बस नॉलेज नहीं था, आपका हर एक शब्द, प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर वैद्य जी का हर एक काम हमारे लिए एक ब्लेसिंग की तरफ ही है। क्योंकि हमेशा हम वी आर डायरेक्टेड टुवर्ड्स फॉरेन साइंटिस्ट, मतलब फॉरेन में भी बहुत अच्छे साइंटिस्ट है, बट कभी कभी हम ये अपने घर में जो है, अपने देश में जो है, वो हम कभी कभी भूल जाते हैं। तो इतनी पढ़ाई में हम सालों गुजार देते हैं। हमारे जिंदगी के 25 साल तो हम कॉलेज यूनिवर्सिटी में जाने में ही जाते हैं, और जो हमारे पुरखों ने काम किया है उसका वो जो बातें हमने आज सुनी, वो मुझे लगता है वो टाइम इज जस्ट अ नंबर। बट आपने आज जो हमें बताया, हम बहुत ही ज्यादा खुश है इस बात से। थैंक यू सो मच वंस अगेन मैम।
Well, thank you.